Hi there, I'm actually here driving back from a meeting in San Luis Obispo with Mind Body Online on the way back to San Diego, but decided to take a small detour and stop in Ojai, California. So this is actually the view of Ojai, California from the place where Jiddu Krishnamurti, renowned philosophers, and kind of really the person who changed view on philosophy, and kind of one of the people who I kind of look up to, read a lot about his space here at his foundation and center in Ojai, California on McAndrews Road. So anyway, so I thought what I should do is kind of spend a few minutes sharing one of at least this is actually the place, by the way, where he sat down and spent his evenings sitting over here and looking across the Ojai, the mountains. So what I want to talk about today is of Krishnamurti, and this is something which I have kind of tried to incorporate in my life: how to live without conflict. And conflict here is not political conflict, but conflict within yourself. How does one live in harmony with oneself, within yourself? And his basically philosophy, I called it the 3 C's, which is basically comparison and conformity lead to conflict. And a mind without conflict is a spiritual mind, and that's what he basically says, one of the biggest, most important sentiments of being living without conflict. So once again, comparison and conformity lead to conflict, and a mind without conflict is a spiritual mind. So what does this really mean? What does comparison mean? So if you look at it today, if I compare my afternoon tomorrow to now, I'll actually be kind of, I'll be basically saying, you know what, oh my God, this really sucks. You know, I was in Ojai, California, now I'm back to work. So our mind is constantly comparing our thoughts, right? Imagine if I'm in an airplane and I'm basically saying, you know what, I wish I could, you know, I could be on the ground at home. Instead, I'm actually flying from San Diego to New York for a meeting. Once again, there is a conflict. Hi, Dolce. Hi, Kristen. Good to see you guys on Facebook Live. Once again, if I'm flying on the plane, I can say, oh my God, you know, I could have just been sitting and chilling at home and I had to take a meeting. But if I stop the comparison and I basically shift the comparison to saying that, by the way, I'm at 30,000 feet in the air in an aluminum tube, and somebody's basically asking me, do you want something to eat? Do you want water? We can really switch our focus, our comparison, right? So the whole thing is about how do we live life without comparing. What happens today is that we are constantly comparing every second, every thought. And if we can stop this comparison, we will stop the conflict in our mind. The second attribute which he talks about is conformity. Every time, from the moment we are born, we are basically given a name, an identity, a nationality, a religion, what to do, how to fit into society. And once again, we start conforming. And the moment you start conforming, it's like we're putting ourselves into a box. And we start putting people into a box and start putting them into a structure. Once again, what happens when you put into a box? You become rigid. Once again, conformity of thoughts and ideas starts a conflict in our mind. This is something which I think is probably the most simple thing in what he said, but it really kind of hits home for me. And once again, living life without comparison and conformity ensures that we have no conflict, and a life without conflict is a spiritual mind. So once again, I just wanted to kind of share some thoughts from here, from Ojai. Let me switch back, and this is really a beautiful place, and wanted to leave you guys with this quick thought. And that's a home where Krishnamurti spent most of his life, and I guess wrote all his books. So once again, lots of love from Ojai, California, and hopefully we all can live a life without comparing, without being conflicted by conformity, and wishing peace. And I guess today is an important day because, you know, from the United States perspective, we kind of pulled out of the Paris Treaty, and I think from a world perspective, I think there are a lot of things we as citizens of the world have to think about what this means from to our environment. Preserve this very fragile ecosystem, which is an extension of ourselves. So anyway, I think from our perspective, let's do our part, and lots of love from Ojai. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.